The cleaner's fingers grazed my sleeve right at the hallway bend near conference room C. "Miss Harper," he murmured, voice barely above the hum of the AC vents. "They relocated your laptop into the room already. You probably shouldn't head in there just yet." Those words hit like cold water down the spine. I stood frozen with a cardboard tray balanced in one hand, two Americanos, an oat milk cappuccino, and chamomile tea for the front desk coordinator who always looked one spilled toner cartridge away from tears. My badge had glitched twice at the east entrance scanner, the red LED flashing like an accusation. I'd chalked it up to some overnight firmware push. But Theo's expression wasn't alarm or rush. It was this measured caution. The look of someone who's seen enough corporate landmines to recognize when someone's about to step on one. 6 hours earlier, the day had felt ordinary, almost peaceful. My kitchen counter at 6:30 a.m., almond croissant warming while muted cable news murmured policy updates. I clipped on the badge I'd worn daily for nearly 4 years, grabbed my notebook with color tab sections, and the pen that had run dry months ago but still clicked satisfyingly when I needed to think. The presentation deck sat encrypted on my drive and a secondary USB hidden in an old mint tin in my bag. This wasn't paranoia, it was precision. The pitch targeted a $45 million federal contract renewal that could redefine our quarterly projections for the next 3 fiscal years. For 6 straight weeks, I'd refined a layered predictive compliance engine, merging federal, state, and emerging AI-driven regulatory forecasts into a dashboard even the most fatigued procurement analyst could actually use, without frustration. My supervisor had praised the architecture as elegant. The VP had glanced once and muttered something about it being heavy on detail. I double-checked my office lock, confirmed the biometric tether on the laptop, rotated my password per protocol, and layered in the 2FA token. By 8:45, I'd rehearsed the full flow twice. Green tabs for budget gates, blue for priority mappings, red for risk thresholds. It looked flawless, not flashy graphics, but the kind of structure that secures multi-year government retainers. I dropped the drinks at reception, shared a quick nod with the coordinator, then ducked into the restroom to steady myself. When I returned, the badge scanner rejected me again. Red blink. Another try. Same result. The coordinator offered a hesitant glance at her monitor. "Your laptop isn't at your desk anymore. They shifted it to conference room C for the demo." "Who authorized that?" She shrugged faintly, fingers hovering uselessly over keys. "I just followed the directives from leadership upstairs." Upstairs. Only a handful had override privileges. My supervisor currently oversees, the infrastructure director, who avoided such moves, and the VP, Richard Caldwell, father to Brooke, the recent arrival who drifted upward through vague strategy titles over the past 2 months. Brooke, with her perfectly highlighted waves and handbags that cost more than most entry-level salaries, had been orbiting my work lately. Standing there, pulse steady but warming in my throat, Theo gave me another knowing look, not sympathy. Just quiet acknowledgement that I was stepping into the middle of something already unfolding. "She's already in there," he added softly, "with your material up on the display." I eased back around the corner, out of direct sight, where frosted panels began. Silhouettes shifted inside, gestures, low laughter. Brooke pacing and pointing at the screen, explaining my predictive thresholds with the same airy confidence she'd used weeks earlier to call regulatory alignment, basically just good vibes. My tray of cooling drinks felt absurdly heavy, like a prop in someone else's scene. The badge scanner beeped denied once more. For years of access reduced to inert plastic. I met the coordinator's eyes. She offered a strained smile that didn't reach her eyes. Facilities mentioned the move earlier. For the 10 a.m. slot you're leading. The slot I'm leading. The word, fast, echoed oddly in my head as my heart shifted into a lower, Heavier rhythm. Not racing yet, but alert. This wasn't a simple scheduling error or misplaced hardware. It felt orchestrated, like the script had been rewritten while I stepped away. Asked her to page facilities. She repeated the line about upstairs instructions. Eyes averted. My phone calendar refreshed. No invite visible. No link. No notes. My entire project footprint had vanished from view. Last night's late team's ping from Brooke, a grinning emoji, ignored at the time. This morning's secure login sequence clean. Now the device set elsewhere. Badge inert. Calendar erased. I slipped toward the break room. Pulled up the internal device dashboard on my phone. One active session. My laptop ID. Logged into conference room C at 9:05 a.m., well before I'd cleared security. No biometric scan. No token. Manual admin override logged. Authorization level, Caldwell tier. Richard Caldwell himself. The VP had handed his daughter the skeleton key to my machine. I captured screenshots, timestamps, session details, override code in plain view. Then I opened my encrypted legal hold draft. Not sending yet. Let the pitch begin. Let Brooke reach the sections where questions would expose gaps. I wasn't erased. I was positioned to watch. The hallway outside conference room C carried the faint scent of fresh printer output, mixed with something sharper. Anticipation edged with dread. I stayed just beyond the frosted boundary. Close enough for voices to carry, but hidden from shadows. Theo had already moved on with his deliberate nod. Inside. Polite chuckles rose. Chairs adjusted. Then Brooke's voice, over-enunciated, syrupy, filled the air, and with this predictive layer, we can actually get ahead of compliance bottlenecks before they surface. That's what sets our platform apart as truly forward-thinking. She hadn't constructed any of it. Not the integrated dashboard. Not the cascading audit framework that unified disparate logs into live feeds. Not the custom middleware I'd coded during late nights. 3 days prior, she'd asked over a rushed lunch what distinguished a compliance delta from a standard variance. Now she strode like she'd authored the architecture herself. I captured another discrete photo, the time-stamped silhouette, her gesture toward my risk heat map. That chart had taken hours at 1 a.m. After a last-minute RFP amendment, eyes strained, rewriting logic loops to link federal flags to state triggers. I leaned against the wall, phone still open to the live logs. A second internal IP had joined the session, likely someone monitoring. I archived it silently. Pulse measured. This wasn't panic time, it was documentation time. Inside. A question came. What's your contingency if the data pipeline fails during an active federal review? A pause stretched too long. Brooke's reply stumbled. Well, the built-in redundancies handle that through the primary automation sequences. She said automation like it was foreign terminology. That hesitation was the first fracture in her delivery. The moment reading bullet points couldn't mask ignorance of footnotes I'd embedded precisely to trigger deeper scrutiny. I refreshed the access history. Biometric bypass confirmed. Override reasons citing temporary admin privilege granted by Caldwell. No password challenge.
No dos fa.
Just executive fiat. This wasn't minor credential sharing. It touched federal vendor protocols where every access chain carried audit weight. Misrepresentation here risked contract integrity clauses. Potential soft fraud flags. I added 7 more captures. Session duration. File access list. Override attribution. Live location tie-in. Then I composed the escalation. Subject line urgent. Body detailing active session under my credentials, while I possessed neither device nor badge access. Location confirmed in demo room. Risk of misrepresentation in government context. Attached evidence. Sent to compliance legal only, no CCs yet. Let the system respond on its own timeline. back pressed to cool drywall. I heard Brooke continue, voice gaining false momentum. These interoperable audit flows allow seamless cross-agency syncing. I'd coined that exact phrasing 2 weeks earlier in a custom integration layer. Now it sounded rehearsed but hollow. Polite laughter rippled. Sales team. Probably. Happy for free pastries and neutral seating. My shadow alert, a private backend trigger I'd coded years ago, never documented in user manuals, had pinged my phone at login without token sync. 1 in a million edge case. But today it fired. I verified the alert's prior month backup timestamp. Proof it predated this incident. The room's energy shifted subtly when a question probed deeper into the retention protocol slide. Brooke faltered again on nested authentication tiers. I could picture her glossy ponytail swinging as she gestured vaguely. No one inside knew I'd built recovery sequences that auto-corrected mid-demo errors. I stayed motionless. Evidence folder growing heavier with each refresh. Legal inbox lit up with auto-acknowledgement. Escalation logged. Incident response queue activated. 3 minutes later, the presentation chatter cut off, not applause. Not natural pause. But the abrupt hush that signals unannounced authority entering. Footsteps sharp. Purposeful heels on tile. Cross the threshold. Legal didn't crash vendor pitches. They arrived only when bleeding had already started. The inhale from the room was collective. Chairs scraping in confusion. I recognized the voice immediately. Victoria Lang. Lead Compliance Counsel. Tone calm, yet edged like a scalpel. Can someone clarify who initiated the login under these credentials? The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was the heavy kind that precedes realization of shared liability. I imagine the slide frozen on my live model sync, still tagged to my user ID. Brooke managed a week. I'm not entirely following, before her voice cracked on the third word. Victoria pressed without raising volume. The session ID is registered to Elena Harper. Biometric override occurred this morning via admin privilege. Does anyone here hold authorization to operate this device? More silence. I pictured Richard Caldwell frozen, calculating damage control, vein pulsing at his temple. Victoria asked the next logical question. Where is Elena Harper at this moment? That landed hardest, because I hadn't entered, hadn't scanned in, and someone senior was only now grasping the implication. I slid lower along the wall, still unseen, letting the weight settle on every witness. This was no longer internal politics. It had crossed into reportable federal context breach during active renewal demo. My phone refreshed again. Incident response dispatched. Inside. Brooke's tone spiked higher. Faster. The files were already loaded when I arrived. I assumed the setup was prepared ahead. Victoria cut in cleanly. Access logs show initiation at 9:05 under bypassed protocols. Badge records indicate MS. Harper never cleared entry after 8:40. Paper rustled. Printed logs. No doubt. A chair pushed back heavily. Probably Caldwell attempting deflection. There appears to have been a coordination oversight this morning. No malicious intent. Victoria's reply was measured. Intent isn't the threshold for credential misuse under our vendor agreements. I straightened slightly. Still concealed. Feeling the cold clarity settle. The trap had sprung precisely where I'd anticipated. Slide 14's embedded flags, now exposing the live session mismatch. Brooke's earlier stumbles on macro triggers and delta definitions echoed louder in memory. She had no grasp of the validation runs or version history proving sole authorship. I remained positioned, evidence chain intact, ready for the inevitable next beat when the room would have to confront the full scope. The air felt thicker, charged with the kind of tension that rearranges hierarchies in real time. The conference room door stayed propped when I stepped through, deliberate, unhurried, the way you move when receipts are already filed. All eyes pivoted. Victoria looked up first. recognition flashing into relief. Brooke froze mid-gesture, hand suspended awkwardly toward the screen. Richard Caldwell stiffened, gaze darting between us, calculating salvage angles. Even the sales reps leaned back, lips parted in silent witness to the script reversal. I crossed to the front, past the projector's glow, stopping beside Victoria. No drama. No throat clearing. I extended my badge and unlocked phone displaying the audit trail. I wasn't on the schedule to present today, I stated evenly. Courtroom calm. Apparently, there was an assumption otherwise. Victoria accepted both without comment. Scanned the logs once, nodded sharply. Thank you. She didn't need verbal confirmation of authorship. The evidence chain already spoke. Over her shoulder. I'll require the device here immediately. Forensic imaging. Full chain of custody initiated. The projector still showed my paused transition between audit flowchart and policy heat map. Speaker notes untouched. File name bearing my initials. Brooke tried to interject. Elena. I thought you had. But her voice fractured midway, choking on the syllables. I offered no reply. She no longer factored centrally. Victoria addressed the room. Who last physically handled this laptop? No volunteers. She added weight. This platform supports federal vendor submissions. Every keystroke remains traceable. Anyone wish to amend prior statements? Still nothing, just scattered blinks and the slow dawning realization coating Brooke's posture like lead. Victoria tapped the mouse, session active under my ID. Bypass log to Caldwell authorization at 9:04. Mr. Caldwell. You granted temporary admin privileges allowing access to an employee's secure device during a federal compliance demonstration. Richard's jaw tightened. She required the model for continuity. The team assumed. The credentials are the issue, Victoria interrupted. Voice level. Not the model itself. Behind her, incident response arrived, two quiet specialists in neutral polos. Sealed kit in hand. They unplugged the laptop methodically. Began duplication. Forms in triplicate. Brooke retreated one shaky step from the table. As if distance could retroactively erase involvement. A government liaison with agency badge stood slowly. Is this element of the demonstration intentional? Victoria met his gaze unflinching. It has become one now. He nodded tightly. Remained standing. I shifted to the room's side. Hands clasped. Composed. No need to gloat. The collective silence performed that role. Heavy with unspoken acknowledgement that this transcended error into weighted violation. Contracts had dissolved over less. Investigators rarely released such threads. Brooke whispered urgently to her father, inaudible. Irrelevant. Victoria posed the closing question. Is any portion of this demonstration attributable to someone other than Elena Harper? No responses. Not even from Brooke. The weight of unclaimed authorship settled like verdict. They relocated us to a converted planning suite. Folding tables. Lingering projector mount. Whiteboard etched with audit shorthand. Victoria typed one-handed. Coffee nearby. The liaison, Agent Voss, sat opposite with notepad already dense. No smiles. Government personnel reserve warmth for safer contexts. Victoria motioned me forward. I mirrored my phone logs to the shared display and explained. The engine employs tiered access with encrypted session checkpoints and dual verification. I designed a demanding proof beyond mere login because federal environments require demonstrable integrity. Voss nodded incrementally. I walked through the override specifics. Buried admin tool known to few. Triggered outside approved windows. Flagged internally yet permitted by executive tier temporarily suppressing alerts. Victoria tilted her head. How are you alerted personally? I embedded a shadow notification, undocumented. Pinging on tokenless activation. I dropped the prior month backup into the shared folder. Voss tapped his pen once. You're essentially an embedded safeguard. They queried deeper, data routing, nested auth assignments, federal grouping logic. I answered precisely. The system was an extension of my own methodology. Brooke wouldn't have recognized half the terminology. Voss leaned back. The critical concern is the timing. Live vendor demo for renewal. Unauthorized access paired with authorship misrepresentation. Absent your flag. This could register as procedural fraud. Victoria concluded. Section 14 Integrity Clause violation. Victoria stood. Internal measures underway. Brooke Caldwell suspended pending investigation. Richard Caldwell stepping aside during review. Immediate effect. I absorbed without outward reaction. This marked the leveling. Not full resolution. Victoria slid a folder across. You'll lead the renewal directly. Procurement already cleared. Voss added flatly. Agency recommends continuation conditional on Harper retaining project oversight, or we disengage. Gravity settled as I took my seat. Justice measured in increments. The badge scanner glowed green on first approach, no hesitation. No retry. No lingering doubt in the corridor. Inside the boardroom, no one rose. But attention held steady. The atmosphere carried corrected weight. Politics yielding to documented risk.
Victoria Prisaidid.
Flanked by external counsel and a security rep with elevated clearance stripe. Agent Voss sat across. Tie relaxed, but focus razor-sharp. He offered the faintest nod of recognition. Participant, not observer. Empty chairs marked absences, Brooks and Richards, impossible to overlook. I placed my notebook down. Tabs aligned. File already projected with clean attribution. Elena Harper. Senior Compliance Strategist. Federal Lead. Victoria opened formally. This session documents review of contract conduct and vendor integrity. Misuse of credentials and attempted misrepresentation occurred within federal context, breaching internal protocols and intersecting Section 14 obligations. Coughs broke the quiet. Eyes avoided contact. Voss spoke plainly. Agency reviewed logs, triggers, and MS. Harper's documentation of unauthorized access. Renewal awarded with stipulation. Harper remains lead. Or engagement terminates. Tension realigned, not panic, but realignment. The CFO affirmed swiftly. Victoria closed her folder. I advanced the deck, no preamble. Just layered data. Clarity aggressive in precision. Updated forecasts decoupled from prior unauthorized touches. Highlighted self-correction in the federal module during the earlier fumble. Recovery protocol I'd authored months prior. Nods accumulated. Notes taken. Yet no effusive praise. This wasn't performance. It was rectification. The final slide darkened. Room sat heavier. Alignment restored after prolonged fracture. 2 days later, the promotion arrived across glass-topped desk from the interim VP. First name introduction. No golf anecdotes. Genuine inquiry into retention mechanics. Director of Strategic Compliance. Full federal suite ownership. Dedicated team. I accepted with a single nod. Inquired immediately about clearing residual access trails. Already executed, he confirmed. Departure notice issued this morning. Resignation effective immediately. No further comment on Richard. His auto-reply simply read early retirement. Subject line sterile. Message absent. Victoria ensured institutional memory lingered. Voss requested permanent audit embedding of my framework. I wasn't merely promoted. The architecture now incorporated me structurally. Theo Ramirez, once the hallway cleaner, transitioned to endpoint security. The certification materials I'd noticed him reviewing months earlier near loading docks proved serious. Night shifts after work had built genuine expertise. The witnessed risk he'd flagged that morning accelerated legal fast-track. Last update placed him overseeing protocols precisely like the ones Brooke had bypassed casually. Quiet persistence often claims lasting influence. I retain the core deck. One subtle addition on the final chart's lower corner beneath matrices and protocols, a single understated line. Not emphasized. Simply present like watermark. Integrity registers in the timestamps. No fanfare accompanied it. Yet each subsequent opening reveals my name positioned exactly where earned. The lingering question remains whether systems truly self-correct without deliberate guardians, or if the cost of silence eventually outweighs the temporary convenience of looking away. Weeks settled into new rhythm. Morning still began early. Coffee strong. Notebook tabs crisp. The federal suite hummed under direct ownership, team expanding with specialists who valued traceable precision over performative flair. Government checkpoints arrived routinely, each passed cleanly because the engine demanded proof at every layer. No lingering resentment colored the work, only sharpened focus. Brooks' absence registered as administrative footnote. Richard's early exit as quiet fade into background. Their names surfaced rarely, usually in audit retrospectives where lessons crystallized. Executive overrides carry weight only when aligned with protocol, never as personal shortcuts. One afternoon, Victoria shared a quiet update over shared reports. The full investigation closed with formal findings. Credential protocols tightened agency-wide. Training modules incorporating anonymized case elements. My shadow alert mechanism gained official endorsement as best practice. Voss followed up personally once, inquiring whether similar safeguards could extend to interagency pilots. Affirmative, with documentation provided same day. Recognition arrived not through ceremony, but sustained contract stability and quiet nods in corridors where competence now visibly anchored decisions. Theo thrived in his new role. We crossed paths occasionally near security stations. His posture carried the same deliberate calm, now backed by administrative authority. He mentioned once, voice low, how speaking up that morning had felt like simple decency, no heroism, just refusing complicity. The certification path he'd pursued independently accelerated because someone noticed the binder and connected dots. Quiet observers frequently become the system's backbone. Evenings sometimes brought reflection on the hallway moment, the tray, the warning, the frosted glass boundary, the slow accrual of evidence, the deliberate wait, the clinical detonation through proper channels.
No explosive confrontation.
Just documented truth asserting itself. The moral residue lingers when hierarchies reward proximity over merit, when family ties temporarily eclipse safeguards. The breach often reveals itself not in grand drama, but in time-stamped logs and silent witnesses. Systems can appear robust until tested by insider convenience. The haunting echo asks whether integrity prevails because it's inherently rewarded or because enough individuals choose, at personal risk, to enforce it when silence would have been easier. In the end, the dashboard still runs. Contracts renew. And the watermark remains. Integrity isn't loud. It's recorded, time-stamped, and ultimately undeniable.